What is domestic wastewater? Domestic wastewater is the wastewater discharged from the residential and commercial establishments. So there are two types of the domestic wastewater. The first one is the black water. The black water is the wastewater that originates from the toilet fixtures, dishwashers, and food preparation sink. So it involves urine, poop, toilet paper, and wipes, and anything you can imagine that goes under the toilet and the kitchen sink. The black water is considered to be highly contaminated with pathogens, so it must be treated well. Then the second one is the gray water. The gray water originates from the non-toilet and food preparation sink. So it originates from the bathroom sinks, laundry machines, spas, bathtub, and unlike black water, gray water is reusable. Water is considered to be a nuisance to be discharged in the cheapest, least offensive manner. This means that the wastewater is discharged through pit privy and directly discharged into the lakes and streams. A pit privy is a hand-dug hole covered with slabs with a riser and a seat, and it is used as a toilet. This can cause pollution to the groundwater, and directly discharging the wastewater into the lakes and streams can harm the environment and can cause contamination. Because of these reasons, there are developments of techniques to be used to treat the wastewater. Wastewater treatment has two categories. The first category is the secondary wastewater treatment, which removes the biochemical demand and the suspended solids from the water. The second category is the advanced wastewater treatment. It is used to solve difficult pollution problems. It further improves the quality of the wastewater to the point that it is too good to throw away and is adequate for the reuse purposes. Before I proceed to explain the processes involved in the treatment, it is important to remember that there are two parts of the domestic wastewater treatment. The first part is for the liquid, and the second part is for the sludge or the solid in the wastewater. Screening is the first unit of operation used in the domestic wastewater treatment. It is the removal of the objects and other debris present in the wastewater. So the device used in the screening is called bar rocks. Bar rocks has three types. These are trash rocks, mechanically cleaned rocks, and manually cleaned rocks. The trash rocks are with large openings ranging from 40 to 550 millimeters. The second one is the manually cleaned rock with openings ranging from 25 to 50 millimeters. And the last one are mechanically cleaned rocks with openings ranging from 15 to 75 millimeters. The next unit of operation after screening happens in grit chambers. Grit chambers are used to remove the inorganic particles such as sand, silt, coffee grinds, and eggshells. Because if these grits are not removed, then they can abrade the pumps. So there are two types of grit removal devices, the aerated and the vortex. The picture below is the aerated grit chamber. As you can see, the spiral roll of the aerated grit chamber drives the grit into the hopper, which is located under the air diffuser assembly. The aerated grit chamber performance is a function of roll velocity and detention time. Normally, the grit from the aerated grit chamber is buried under the sanitary landfill. Below is a picture of a vortex grit chamber. The wastewater is brought into this chamber tangentially. As you can see in the center of the chamber, there is a rotating turbine which produces a spiraling donut-shaped flow pattern. This pattern tends to lift the organic particles and settle the grit into a grit sump. The secondary wastewater treatment implies that the major mechanism used for treating the wastewater is a biological process. The domestic wastewater is treated by having a heterogeneous culture of microorganisms that convert organic carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus into a biological solid. As I have said earlier, the secondary wastewater treatment uses three approaches. First is the activated sludge, the aerator systems, and the trickler filters. Activated sludge. Activated sludge is a biological wastewater treatment technique in which a mixture of wastewater and a biological sludge is agitated and aerated. Activated sludge derives its name from the biological mass formed when air is continuously injected into the wastewater. It is an engineered process wherein oxygen is added to a reactor to speed up the process that naturally occurs in rivers. In practice, the wastewater continuously flows into an aeration tank where air is injected into the activated sludge to mix with the wastewater and to supply oxygen needed for the organisms to break down organic compounds. Below is the design for the activated sludge. The design and operational parameters of the activated sludge. It is important to know about the design and the operational parameters of the activated sludge because it is used by the process engineers to design an activated sludge. The main design and operational parameter is called the mean cell residence time or MCRT. A qualitative definition of the MCRT is the total biomass in the system divided by the biomass wasted from the system. It is typically generally varies 5 to 30 days and determines the overall substrate removal efficiency of the process. The equation for the MCRT is shown below. The next parameter is the hydraulic detention time. It is the time the wastewater resides in a particular unit. The design engineers use hydraulic detention time to determine the volume of the aeration basins and the second clarifiers. Below is the equation for the hydraulic detention time. The next parameter is the food to microorganisms ratio. The equation is shown below. Biochemical kinetics of complete mixed activated sludge or CMOS systems. The biochemical kinetics are used to model heterogeneous microbial cultures such as activated sludge systems. Below is the equation for the net growth rate. The next parameter is the effluent soluble substrate equation. The substrate removal in activated sludge systems has been modeled using various expressions. So this equation is proposed by Lawrence and McCarthy 1970 using the Michaelis-Menten type equation. And this is the final form of the equation. Next is the minimum mean cell residence time or minimum MCRT. It is considered as a washout point because the biomass cannot produce enough. So the equation for the minimum MCRT is shown below. Next is the total effluent substrate concentration. Regulating agencies and MPTES permits generally least effluent BOD5 requirement in terms of the total BOD5 or the TBOD5. The TBOD5 consists of particulate BOD5 or PBOD5 and soluble BOD5 or SBOD5. The soluble BOD5 can be measured in the laboratory, while the particulate BOD5 equation is shown below. The activated sludge approach requires oxygen since the heterogeneous culture of the microorganisms present in the aeration basin primarily consist of aerobes. And then the oxygen serves as the acceptor of the electrons. The ultimate end product is the water. To solve for the total quantity of the oxygen required to meet the process requirements, the equation is shown below. The second approach in the secondary wastewater treatment involves aerator systems. Aerator systems speed up the process of breaking down solids in your systems by adding oxygen. This means that the aerator systems foster bacteria that breaks down and digests the wastewater inside the holding tank. There are two types of the aerator system. The first type is the mechanical aerator and the second one is called diffuser or diffuse aerator system. The mechanical aerator consists of mixer or brush shooters that transfer oxygen into wastewater by spraying the wastewater into the air. The second one is called diffuse aerator systems. It is similar to fish aquarium tanks. The oxygen is diffused through a diffuser stone or membrane, thereby transfer of oxygen into the wastewater. The third approach uses trickling filters. This approach is an alternative biological process typically used before the activated sludge systems had gained with acceptance. This approach is considered to be aerobic attached growth process. Trickling filters does not function primarily as filters, as contrary to its name. Instead, it is a means of providing large amount of surface area where microorganisms can cling and grow on the rock media or plastic media as fed on the organic matter. Trickling filter is a bed of coarse material, stone, slats, and plastic material. Second clarification is important to further properly separate the biological solids from the wastewater. The design of the second clarifier is used for the biological process to operate properly. The equations used in the design of the second clarifier is shown below. Disinfection is a fundamental process in the wastewater treatment. Its purpose is to kill and inactivate pathogens such as bacteria, protozoa, viruses, and helminths. The wastewater, which the human may come in contact with, must be disinfected. The primary disinfectants are chlorine, chlorine dioxide, chloramines, ozone, and ultraviolet radiation. Chlorine is the most popular and commonly used disinfectant. However, since it is toxic for the aquatic life, it is removed in the final effluent. Dechlorination of the wastewater. The chlorine is delivered to the wastewater treatment facilities as a liquefied gas. Chlorine may be applied as a gas or in the aqueous solution. Chlorine gas is dissolved in a non-potable effluent, which is then chlorine contact chamber. Chlorine is dissolved into a side stream of water using vacuum pressure system and regulator. To avoid potential gas leaks, chlorine is not typically directly dissolved into the wastewater. Chlorine contact basin is a long rectangular serpentine channels to allow chlorine sufficient time to react with the pathogens in the wastewater. Chlorine is added at the front of the chlorine contact basin. Sludge treatment and disposal. Sludge treatment and disposal is the second part of the domestic wastewater treatment. The sludge mass volume relationship is important in the designs of solid handling and treatment system. The equation is shown below. Sludge thickening reduces the volume of the sludge to be handled. It means that it separates as much water as possible by either gravity or flotation. In gravity thickening, these solids are allowed to settle at the bottom, while in flotation, the solids are floated at the top of the liquid. Stabilization is the process of breaking down the organic solids biochemically so that they are more dewaterable and more stable. More stable meaning lesser odors and the pathogen content is reduced. Another reason for the breaking down of the organic solids is to reduce the mass of the sludge. There are two basic stabilization processes in use, the aerobic and anaerobic digestion. In aerobic digestion, air is injected into the sludge. The aerobic digestion is basically a continuation process of the activated sludge. This is accomplished by aerating the sludge in an open tank similar to the aeration tank in the activated sludge. Anaerobic digestion is carried out in a closed tank devoid of oxygen. This stabilization process is divided into three stages. The first stage is called hydrolysis. It is where complex organic solids are being hydrolyzed by bacteria through secretion of extracellular enzymes. The carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are converted into simple carbohydrates, amino acids, and fatty acids. The second stage is called acidogenesis. It involves conversion of the soluble carbon from the hydrolysis into organic acids and H2 by anaerobic bacteria. In this stage, the pH will drop and other fermenting bacteria will partially oxidize the organic acids into acetic acids and hydrogen gas. The last stage is called methanogenesis. It is the conversion of the fatty acids and hydrogen into CH4 and CO2 by the strict anaerobes. It is generally the gasification of the organics accomplished by the acid-fleeting methane-forming bacteria called methanogen. Dewatering is the process of separating the water by subjecting the sludge to vacuum, pressure, and drying. It is accomplished through mechanical means. The main purpose of dewatering is to further increase the solid content of the sludge already accomplished in the thickening, thereby reducing the volume of the sludge that must be handled. It's important that the residuals and the biosolids from the wastewater treatment are being properly disposed. The US EPA developed a new regulation for the sludge disposal. It is to protect the public health and environment from the potential harmful effects of the pollutants and contaminants that may be present in the residuals. The ultimate disposition of the sludge residuals and the biosolids is accomplished by application to agricultural land or burial in a sanitary landfill. Below are the requirements under the regulation for the disposal of the residuals.